Hi, and welcome back to Continual. It's time to crank out all the sugared cereals and turn loose the latchkey, kids, because we're here to talk about all of that which was glorious from the 80s. It's time for some Transformers, He-Man, She-Ra, and God only knows what other rabbit holes we're going to go down. It is time to talk cartoons. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and let's go around and see who all is packed in the house and is raiding the fridge. So, Ms. Carr, you're up first.
Hi, I am the one, the only, the totally Gen X R.E. Carr, who did actually grow up in the 80s watching these cartoons, much to the chagrin of my mother. I'm probably the only person who's ever needed therapy over an Optimus Prime, and I won't lie, I may have married a man whose last name was Carr. Sorry, a non-binary whose last name was Carr, so that I could get the initials RC, my favorite Transformer. I also write books.
So, on the other side of special, Rick.
My co-writer!
Hey everyone, my name is Rick Gualtieri. I write horror and fantasy. I have about 50 books out there, and I'm pretty much just here to tell you all that Rodimus Prime sucks.
This is why we're friends.
Mr. Hand.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Hand. I am a short fiction, primarily fantasy and historical fiction author, but also I write about using role-playing games in psychotherapy. Yeah, I am a child of the 80s. Probably don't have quite as much of a broad knowledge as everybody else here, because not only am I a child of the 80s, I grew up on a British Army camp where we had a single channel in English, so I watched whatever I was given. Having children of my own, well, a child of my own, I now understand why my parents hate He-Man as much as they do, because, oh my God, I was obsessed. And if their loathing for He-Man is even a smidgen of my loathing for Cars, that film, the Disney film.
You're saying you hate Cars?
Cars,
yes.
Yeah. With
the lines are being drawn again.
Oh, Owen Wilson, was it? It's like Jesus. I used to watch that film like 2 or 3 times a day, and oh my God, please somebody burn it. So yes, I get where my parents were coming from now.
Alledria.
Hi, I'm Alledria Hurt. I'm an author of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy, and I was early 80s born, mid to late 80s watching TV, and a lot of it is still on VHS because I grew up in Germany.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for dog books. I also write under a variety of other pen names and in all lengths and genres. And I have just one thing to say. Thundercats ho.
Yes!
What did you just call me?
I think she called you a Thundercat.
And I'm the hoe.
Oh God.
Well,
Jim, I'm so I feel
Look,
for you, mate.
as far as I'm concerned, Chitara forever. So I, like Jenny, am an old Gen X. And I write lots of books, but I was also doing research for this panel, and I've decided that my memory has gaslighted me completely, and I am very upset about this.
Right, everything seemed different back then.
It was all better in our mind. Go back into your mind and
it was so bad. And I'm looking at the years when all of these came out, and I went, but I watched them as a kid. But this is saying it was out when I was in high school. But I watched them as a kid. I'm having issues with this because either my memory has completely fled or Wikipedia is lying. And personally, I'm on the Wikipedia is lying part.
It's your memory. I was the girl in college racing to get home in time to watch Voltron. So
Voltron! I say we hijack it for the Voltron stands already.
I stand Voltron too, but I actually still prefer the one that didn't have the lions, where it was like 25 different ships, and it made more sense to me than 5.
You have
lions. And I love cats,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna wrestle control of here. I'm gonna ask the first
Good luck,
question
mate.
that's gonna get me in trouble.
Good luck to you.
Because we're already going down that path. So, Ms. Carr, out of all of 70s, 80s cartoons, what is your one favorite and why?
Okay, so this is a tough one because you have to say 80s. Because if we had 90s, we all know what it would be. But
X-Men?
Yep. I mean, I have the shirt on with Gambit and Rogue. But since we're talking about 80s, it was a tough one because I do absolutely love my Voltron. But I remember when I was the one little girl who watched Transformers and how much it meant to me. And as I said, every year I asked for an Optimus Prime for Christmas because I wanted it so desperately, because I loved the struggle of these alien robots that came from a far distant land and had this really cool relationship. And they had one girl Transformer and her name was RC, and I thought that was cool. We've already established that I married a man to get those initials. So it came into my conscious, and I asked for every year as a child for an Optimus Prime, and I was given Barbies instead. And thus, I had to get therapy, because when I was in my 40s, someone gave me an Optimus Prime, and all that trauma came back. So I will have to say that Transformers has a very, very special place in my heart, and Rodimus Prime sucks.
So, Rick, what's your number one?
Well, first, I just want to correct Rachel, because Alita 1 and Nightbird both showed up before RC. You freaking casual, you.
Did you just Transformers shame me, you pathetic
Yes, 100%.
excuse for a man?
Because you are talking to somebody.
Grimlock was dumb.
Hey.
Because you're talking to somebody who, as an Easter egg, has put the phrase "more than meets the eye" into about 80% of his books.
I know. I find it everywhere, like a happy little Easter egg bunny.
I just want to give a shout out to Mel right now, because the rest of us are losing it. She's just got this deadly serious. We're going to get to mine, and I will get us back on track.
So yeah, definitely Transformers. Although I will say Thundercats are probably a close second, because as far as bad guys went, it's really hard to beat Mumra the Ever Living.
You, Rick, that was my T going across my keyboard.
So, Daniel,
Jim, shall we
channel
just,
you had?
Go for it.
Shall we just give this up, Jim, and we'll leave this bunch to hash it out. We'll just go and get a drink.
Oh no, we want to hear about your turtles.
Yeah, coward, tell him about the Hero Turtles.
I will tell. Well, I'm being asked what my favorite one was, and the Hero Turtles were very up there, with where they weren't allowed to, where Mikey wasn't allowed to use his nunchucks, and they weren't allowed to use the word ninja because, the horror, etc., etc. But no, as mentioned, He-Man was the thing for me, just because. And I can tell you here and now, not the only, but the big reason was the transformation sequence. Those few seconds of television were just, just the biggest high I ever had.
Yes, Mr. Hand, we recognize your love of the codpiece. So,
hey.
Do you have the power of Grayskull?
Or the honor?
I would say he does.
Like Rick, I may have put certain phrases into the odd story every now and again, just because the opportunity presented itself and I wasn't gonna pass it by. But don't worry, guys. I'm sure we'll talk about Hero Turtles. What I will say to Rachel, though, because I was always asking for an Optimus Prime. I was also never given. I got Deluge, which was one of the ones where you squirted them and they changed color.
Yeah, they gave me Skyfire because my mom said it was the biggest one and she hoped the Transformers wouldn't turn me gay.
And why not? But
Jetfire was an awesome piece.
I use role-playing games in psychotherapy, Rachel, and there is a Transformers role-playing game. So if you need to work through your therapy using an RPG, it's made by the same company who made the Power Rangers RPG. So, I'm not sure you can afford me, but give me a call.
Alledria, how about you? What was your favorite as we continue down this glide path of...
Sorry, Jim, I have never seen you this dead behind the eyes. I'm sorry.
Oh, give him time. We'll break him yet.
Wait. Achievement unlocked. Keep going.
Okay, so my favorite 80s TV, I really did love the Transformers because, well, let's face it, Scorponok, the city size one.
I always look
pretty friggin' awesome. But I will have to admit that I am a She-Ra stan. I was that girl with and the shifting sequences is probably why I'm also a Sailor Moon stan. Because I'm
Rock on, sister.
So it's this was my jam. And then of course my mother, being who she was, got me She-Ra's horse when she, in the middle of her transformation, when she's bright pink and clear see-through. I remember this from being really, really young, and I was just okay, this is fantastic.
This is the thing.
Jenny.
It's so hard to choose among my loves.
You've had a half an hour.
I know, but it's still hard to choose. I mean, I'm gonna
hedge your bets.
I really do have to. It's Voltron and Thundercats. Though I like the Thundercats reboot more than I like the original Thundercats, and I loved He-Man for the tiger. I liked the tiger. I'm a cat girl, okay? So that's why it's shocking that the Voltron I like the best is not the lions. Oh, of course, I would never turn down getting to Isle of the Lion. But I like the one where it was, 25 people an individual. I understand why they said, this is really hard to animate. Let's go with some lions because those are easier. But yeah, it would have to be Voltron because I wasn't running home from college classes to catch Thundercats. I was running home from college classes to catch Voltron. I do want to mention I was in college early, so because like Mel, I'm on that far side of Gen X, but I'm still there. But yeah, so it would be Voltron because really nothing is cooler. Voltron to me combined everything that Transformers was doing and Thundercats was doing in a giant space robot. So it had everything for me.
All right, Mel.
So I really did love Thundercats, and I have not actually seen the reboot, so I have no opinion on it one way or the other. But for me, honestly, oh my God, this is going to totally, I am going to pigeonhole myself. Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
I loved that series. That series was I was threatening. So it's a story I've told a couple times. One of the reasons I detest football, okay? I detest football because I grew up on the West Coast, which meant football games that were 1:00 East Coast time were 10 in the morning, West Coast time. So I'd be like, yes, I've got my cartoon. It's going to be on. Football game. Okay, well, there's only 3 minutes left and the game's over. So it'll be over so I can watch my cartoon. Talk about the longest 3 minutes on the face of the earth. It would sometimes take an hour. And of course, I would miss my cartoons. Years of that. I detested football because they cost me my Saturday morning cartoons. And no, as a little kid, that was the only day of the week I got to watch cartoons, was Saturday morning football. But no, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah, I hated football for a long time for that sole reason. I like soccer. It was 2 45-minute halves, period, and statement.
Well, and the thing was about the Dungeons and Dragons opening was because they were going basically down the waterfall at the park, and the first thing I thought of every time was Land of the Lost and the whitewater rafting down the tunnel, and I'm like, is that just a ripoff or no? But anyway, so Rick, I'm gonna hop over. Let's just go ahead and get Transformers out of the way. We're gonna just let everybody unleash love, hate, fan for what is it you love about Transformers. Just go. I'm just gonna throw this out. everybody's going to get stuck with Transformers, so we can get this over and done.
What I loved most about Transformers originally was that it wasn't just a one, well, not person, but robot show. Like, as much as I liked He-Man, basically, without He-Man, the other Masters of the Universe were useless. They would get beaten, captured, all that stuff. But with Transformers, there were plenty of episodes where, either Optimus Prime or Megatron weren't the deciding factor. So it was much more of an ensemble show. The other thing I liked was that there was competence in various layers. It's like, yeah, okay, Starscream was bumbling, but there was Megatron, and if Megatron was out of the way, well, there was Soundwave, there was Shockwave. If Optimus Prime was out of action, Ironhide or Prowl or something. Don't even get me started on Dinobots.
Was everywhere.
I hate Bumblebee. My least
You're
favorite
dead to me, Rick.
Transformer.
Well,
Least favorite Transformer.
the line is drawn again.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I liked about Transformers, because it wasn't just like Optimus Prime was a main character, but he wasn't the only character, and if he wasn't there, it wasn't like the others just fell off the face of the planet with incompetence. So
enough that you transformed them into religious icons. Let's just go ahead and get that on the table.
Oh yes.
Yes, in one of my book series, the concept of faith in vampires is that you imbue a little bit of your life force into an object if you believe in it enough. And it just so happens that one of the characters is a little on the insane side. He's a collector. He finds an Optimus Prime figure at a flea market for really cheap, and he's so into it that basically this Optimus Prime figure he finds is able to kill vampires.
You've got one of those Optimus Prime robots, haven't you, that drives around the house and just transforms when you tell it to?
If I win the lottery, maybe.
If you win the lottery, your whole house will transform.
Oh, definitely.
All right, Daniel.
You won't know, but there will be signs.
I'm sorry, Bumblebee was he didn't give a shit how dangerous it was. He was gonna go in and he was gonna get it. He was boots on the ground. Okay, fine, we're gonna get this done. Okay, I mean, no, I will agree that a VW Beetle. No, I'm not.
You didn't want a VW Beetle? That was like the coolest car ever in the 80s.
Not if you had to grow up in one.
No. Not
if you had to drive in one every
like
day.
Alledria, I grew up in Germany. No. Just no. And the same with Rodimus. I quite liked Rodimus because I didn't see the movie until I think probably my 30s, because again, one television channel. So I never actually saw what happened to Optimus. I just kind of got dumped halfway into the next series, and Rodimus, it was just Rodimus now. I was like, oh, okay. So, and even I was quite cynical as a kid. So I was like, well, they've obviously got more toys to sell, and Rodimus is the new leader. Okay, fair enough. So I wasn't traumatized like so many people were by the events of said movie, but I actually really liked Rodimus, but simply because he was, I don't know, he was insecure, and I related very well with that. He was like, am I doing the right thing? Somebody please tell me I'm doing the right thing. Did I shoot that guy all right? Come on, please tell me. I mean, look, he is dead. Look, did I do a good... But I was very concerned about the fact that Rodimus had a mouth. Optimus, I thought the lead Autobot was supposed to talk like this all the time. But the Quintessons I loved because they were just hideous, things with 5 faces on their head. Great. Eric Idle as a Junkion. Ronnie, do Ron, Ronnie, Moo! I mean, come on. I'm not going to mention the films, the Michael Bay stuff.
They don't exist, right?
I love the films. I'll defend the films.
Do we though? Do we? But no, I had to take what I was given, and we weren't given a great deal. So I loved the Transformers, but I often saw the same the same episode 2 or 3 times, and then another episode 2 or 3 times. I never got the whole series. I mean, I remember the reveal of Scorponok, for example. I remember the headmasters being built because Daniel ended up inside Arcee. That's all I remember from that, because I didn't see any of the other episodes because they just weren't shown.
Alledria.
I had a little bit of a different experience because, well, I was growing up in Europe. I had grandparents in the United States. So they would tape the Saturday morning cartoons and mail them to us.
The best grandparents ever.
Yes.
Oh.
So I would get, I wouldn't get them like Daniel said. You had literally one channel that was in English. So you
SSBC.
Actually, it was AFN for us because we were watching Armed Forces Network.
Of course it was, yeah.
And so we didn't get Saturday morning cartoons except on VHS. So I would get, and this is how come I know the jingles for a bunch of 80s commercials, because my grandparents, being who they were, didn't know how to work a VCR to cut the commercials out. So I know all these like 80s commercials. So when we were growing up, we would get to binge watch cartoons because they were on tape. And so I remember seeing the entire run of Transformers. And then I got to see the movie. And I'm sorry, but they owe us for the therapy. They owe us for therapy for the death of Optimus Prime. I'm sorry, they do. It was just like watching one of your childhood heroes not like have a final moment and then die.
Let's be honest. The 80s was rough on our heroes.
Yeah, the 80s didn't play.
Yeah.
But yeah, Transformers was pretty awesome. Now, when we start talking about the Michael Bay films, I love them as action movies. Mm-hmm. I do not love them as Transformers movies.
Yeah, we're not going down that path. We're just not going down that path.
No, I can't. I can't do. I don't know how to. I can't reconcile it. I'm sorry, I just can't. It doesn't work for me.
All right, Jenny.
Kids, if I could reconcile the G.I. Joe movies, the G.I. Joe cartoons, y'all can reconcile.
Yeah, but Snake Eyes was really hot, and that came out for a lot.
To the Transformers show. I'm a Bumblebee girl, and screw all of you who don't like him, okay? Because obviously none of you were stuck growing up in a Volkswagen, driving everywhere in a Volkswagen Beetle, and then when that thing finally died, hoping against hope that your mother would come home with something that, oh no, it's still a Volkswagen. It's just a square bag. And I would drive down thinking maybe it could transform to something that would be cool or comfortable or start. Actually, I shouldn't diss it starting. It started at the top of the Rockies when no one else's car was starting. So, I got to give it some props, but we slept in those cars. So I just want to share that I really, really wanted Bumblebee to be real and be mine so that it could shift into an actual comfortable bed with a bathroom inside it. Enough said there. I love the movies. I'm going to admit it. I love Michael Bay. I love his stuff because he knows how to blow stuff up real good. And having seen movies where people actually don't understand the right way to do it just shows what an auteur he is. Anyway, I'm a huge Michael Bay fangirl. You can say what you will. I think he's a genius, and he does his stuff well and hard, and he does it right. So I like his movies. I love the first two Transformers. I kind of petered off after the first two. There were other movies coming up, and I I like them. My husband's like, do we have to go? Must we go to the third one? Because you dragged me to the first two. Do we have to go to the third one? It's like, maybe they'll be making a Voltron movie that you could force me to see. So if only. But yeah.
Aren't we on like Michael Bay number 73 or something at this point?
I love Michael Bay. Michael Bay could keep going forever, as far as I'm concerned. I like stuff that blows up real well. He really understands action. Like Alledria said, they're wonderful action movies. And I don't care. I liked the G.I. Joe movies after my brain had the massive schism of, this isn't the cartoon. This is not the cartoon. And then I got over it. But that's kind of how I was with Transformers. Only, they actually had a cool VW that turned into something fun. So I was jealous. It was real.
Mel?
So again, I'm having a mental disconnect because I should never research things. I learn things that I don't want to know. But you asked me about like Beast Wars, Transformer Beast Wars. They turned into cats. They turned into animals. This is cool. According to Wikipedia, again, I'm pretty sure it's lying. It was airing in 1996 through 1999.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's when my daughter was born. Yeah.
Working 2 jobs. I have zero idea. I mean, heck, I was pushing my 30s. I have zero idea how I could possibly watch those shows at all because I was never home. But yet those are by far my favorites, and I honestly can't even tell you why. So at some point, either it's the Mandela effect that has gone, oh, this is what I would like, therefore I must have watched them and I must have loved them. But I mean, Transformers, I enjoyed it. I liked the concept. I enjoyed watching them when they were on, but they were never anything that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to see. The Michael Bay movies, I enjoyed, especially Beast Wars, because again, I got to see something turn into a cat. I have a weakness. But I honestly, it would have been Voltron. I thought that was more interesting because it was much more sci-fi. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but that concept was more science fiction to me, whereas Transformers seemed almost more fantasy. And I thought the sci-fi aspect was kind of cool, that you could do robots that would then, your starships would then turn into a bigger starship. So, but again, I could not have possibly watched that show because I didn't own a VHS in those years. Because again, working 2 jobs. I had no idea.
Rachel?
Well, I'm still processing Michael Bay and Artur being said unironically in the same sentence, so give me a moment. But I can say I must clearly adore trauma, because not only did I see Transformers the movie in the theater, but it's the movie I have seen in the theaters more than any other, as well as having
Were you
the
hoping
VHS.
for a different ending?
I don't know. I also loved it as a kid because it was the voice of Orson Welles, which I remember as the voice from the Nostradamus documentary. Screw that Citizen Kane shit. But that's what I remember. And it had Spock. Spock was a bad guy, and Eric Idle, who I had a huge crush on, was singing. And he was a Junkticon, and there was a Weird Al song. It was literally everything in my childhood that I loved. And then Optimus Prime died, and it hurt. And that's why I became a goth, ladies and gentlemen, because clearly I loved it because it hurt me. And I got someone else with their drink. Yeah, I mean, Transformers was cemented more for the movie even than the TV show, because I had to do lots of Saturday morning activities because I was a nerd. But yeah, the thing that I wanted, and then I thought because Optimus Prime died, I would never get the toy. Like, the toys would just cease to exist because they must have died too. So, yeah, that's my therapy in a nutshell. That's my love of Transformers. It's pain and Orson Welles, who I remember from the Nostradamus documentary.
So now we're going to make everybody a little happier. We're going to go over into the Masters of the universe. He-Man, Shera, all that kind of lighter fare, they killed fewer people, but had, and the action sets, right? I mean, who doesn't want Castle Grayskull? So, Dan,
Are we talking about the movie too?
I will allow the movie. I will
Rebellion,
allow the
talking
movie
about
because it
the
falls during the
movie.
time period.
I'll be
and-
talking about the movie, Alledria, regardless
Oh, the movie's
of what
amazing.
permissions are.
which I
Love
have
Rebel.
seen way
Evelyn was
ridiculous
hot.
number of times. I mean, to be able to MST3K the movie is a beautiful experience. But
Why would you MST3K something that's so perfect, Jim? It's so perfect and pure on its
There's
own.
something wrong with our host.
I'm-
He is broken.
One word, Rachel. Gwildor.
Oh, and it's like it's Tom Paris and Courtney Cox from Friends as a couple. That's the least believable thing in this movie.
so Daniel, Masters of the Universe.
Do you have any opinions?
Can I just say, Continual does not endorse any substance misuse whatsoever. You just
Look, this was the '80s. Fruit Loops, and it was just straight up pure sugar.
This is the 80s. Cocaine was everywhere. Okay?
Probably
Let's
in
not
the
pretend.
cereal.
Let's not pretend. Cocaine was probably on breakfast cereal that we just didn't know. Okay.
Frosted
It's like
Flakes.
the 80s discovered cocaine and went, this is the greatest substance. Highs for everyone. So, yeah, don't try to pretend it was an innocent time, Jim. It wasn't. Weed was good. Coke was everywhere. And the 6 of us were watching cartoons. So you just carry on with your bad self.
do you consider yourself told there, mate? Jesus.
The inmates have the asylum today.
When do they not? When do they not?
Pretending to be on his side, but he isn't, right?
I'm just feeling the guy's pain. I've tried hurting lunatics in the past and just given up, and I don't know how he hasn't already. It's
That's because the lunatics buy him whiskey at cons.
okay, eminently bribable. That's good man.
This is
Compliment
not
is kilt.
this is not even in the top 5 craziest parts of my day yet. So y'all have work to do.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. Well, He-Man, I mean, changed my life entirely because I loved just swords. Anything with swords that went around hitting other things with swords meant hence why I'm still writing about things with swords. And obviously, an almost naked man running around with swords immediately leads to Conan the Barbarian. And, how much stuff did he keep in his loincloth? Whenever he needed a gadget, it came out. I'm like, mate, that looks uncomfortable. But yeah, the transformation sequence, I think I noticed it even as a kid. In the first season or so, he was Prince Adam at the beginning, transformed to He-Man, and then you might have seen Adam at the end, and that was it. Whereas in the later seasons, they realized that the only thing the kids cared about was the transformation sequence. So he was Adam, He-Man, Adam, He-Man, Adam. I mean, he used to transform 4 or 5 times in a single episode just because that music was the best thing in existence. And then She-Ra came along and just all the more. I mean, just amazingness. And then seeing Skeletor and Hordak bickering like, a married couple, it was amazing. Even the did you notice what happened in that episode when the other guy kicked the guy in the balls? That wasn't very nice, was it? Even that I could give a pass because swords and lightning. And and men with battering rams for heads. I mean, if I could have gone around headbutting my way through life, damn right I'd have done it.
So, Alledria, what was your feeling about the Love Child series of Zardoz and Conan the Barbarian?
Oh, wow.
Thundar. What are you talking about? It was Thundar.
You took the word right out of my mouth. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
look, we're not talking schmooze tonight. We're going to do that one of these days.
So how many of you remember the He-Man and She-Ra movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That. It's like so much of that. And it was like, okay. So this is another one of those ones that I didn't get to see until after it had been out in the US for a little while because it had to get to me in the mail. And it was like, okay, so I sit down to watch this. I am literally, I have forgotten that I need to pee. I have forgotten that I need to get up. I sit through this entire movie without moving and possibly without blinking. It's like, this is awesome.
I didn't realize until much later in life that, hang on, that series washes over a lot of Adora's past. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's just like
war crimes much.
War crimes, abduction. We're not entirely sure what the whole interaction.
Look, everything we all know about diplomacy came from these Saturday morning cartoons. So therefore,
we're all screwed. Therefore,
why do you think there's no Gen X in the White House?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the movie did it for me. I was just like this, and then I think at that point, then I started actually watching the series. And of course, because I was living in Europe and we didn't have the toys, we really didn't have the toys. So it didn't click for me until much later in life that these were essentially toy commercials. It's like, this it just did not occur to me. So there you go.
Jenny?
Okay, so I have always loved animation, like way more than average kids. I've been into animation, and that's never left. And I dated quite a bit before I met my husband, and at the time when I met my husband, there was him and one other guy that were definitely husband material. And my test, as it always was what animated movie am I going to insist you take me to and see how you react? Because if you make fun of me or you insult the movie, we're done. My husband scored 101 Dalmatians. Bachelor number 2 scored He-Man and She-Ra, Masters of the Universe. Now, I was super excited to see this movie, and he, to his credit, took me where he's already graduated from college. I've graduated from college too. We're college graduates. And his date is like, I want to see He-Man, right? So he managed it. It was very good. And I loved the movie. He was like, so did you enjoy it? I'm like, oh, wasn't it the greatest? And I don't know how he managed to keep me straight face. He goes, yes, for a cartoon from a Saturday morning for a movie from a Saturday morning cartoon that we're both 15 years too old for, it was great. And I'm like, he goes, and yes, I would take you to it again if you want to see it. So, I mean, he was working hard, but he didn't look like Tom Cruise like my husband actually does. So he lost. But yeah, so I love that movie. I really enjoyed all the stuff that was She-Ra's introduction, really, was the movie. And I really love She-Ra. And so I watched it off and on in between, working and things. And I'm kind of with Daniel, though. The transformations were the really cool part. And when you sit there going, Skeletor, is he actually Paul Lynde? I mean that in all the ways I can mean that. Because Skeletor is both the comic relief and also seems just a little too emotionally upset about way too many things. I was just like, you want to be Mrs. He-Man, don't you, sir? But I really think that was Skeletor's problem. He couldn't come out of the bone closet, and that there was a lot when you rewatch these as an adult. I mean, real adult. I was an adult, but as an adultier adult, an actual adult. When I watched them,
regressing adult.
As someone who actually gets looked to as the adultiest in a room, God knows what.
What room is that?
There, you'd be amazed at the rooms that happens in. I almost as amazed as I am in the rooms that happens. There was so much, the animators and the writers were getting away with a lot in that one, more than many of the others. They were getting away with a tremendous amount of subtext that was just flying over people's heads, but obviously settled happily into our brains. So you know, but I'm with Alledria. The movie was everything.
Mel?
Just to make sure that my frame of reference is correct, you're talking about the He-Man and She-Ra animated movie or He-Man with Dolph Lundgren?
Yes.
Animated movie.
Go with it.
It's not a test.
Really
It's not a test of how someone's going to react to me wanting to see a cartoon if there's a live action person on the screen. So no, the good one, the animated one.
It's all on the table. Or off the hook or something. I this point.
I actively enjoyed the series, but even watching it, I had a lot of mixed emotions. I can flat out say that I enjoyed She-Ra more for two important reasons. One, it came out when I was in late high school. She had a flying horse.
Right?
Period. You won. She had a flying horse. I was sold from that point because I had my neighbor had horses, so I got to ride occasionally. Flying horse, sold. But the other thing that really struck me is that Adam was worse than Clark Kent. Clark Kent was at least competent in what he was doing, and Adam and Cringer were just complete failures. Everybody regarded them as jokes and everything else. And I liked the fact that at least in She-Ra, Adora was competent. She was treated as competent, and they never basically treated her like she was just this fumbling or too stupid to live or anything like that. So that the dichotomy with that always really bugged me, even as a young teen, because I'm going, doesn't it occur to anybody that Adam is built like this, yet he can't hold a sword? I'm missing something. And why in the world is a tiger that outweighs half of the people he's coming up against acting like he's scared to death? I had real issues with that. And then you start layering on the fact that the sorceress was Tila's mother, who abandoned her. And her father knew this, but never told her. And that Adam had a twin sister who was stolen, but they never bothered to tell. Just the amount of adult issues that were slipped in, as me sitting back going, if I was Adam or I was Adora or something, I would be ready to strangle half of the, quote, adults in my life. I mean, talk about betrayal on a level that's almost incomprehensible. And Tila, I'm really surprised that she only went over as, sarcastically being a mercenary captain as she did. I'm going, some of the betrayals, and you're just like, oh, you're supposed to be a good person, even though we've literally ripped your heart out. I enjoyed the series, but wow, did it leave me with a lot of thoughts about how you really couldn't trust anybody, ever. Even the person who was giving you all the power was still lying to everybody. And then my last comment about it was, why in the heck did she sleep in the falcon head? She slept with it on. What the?
Because it kept her ears warm.
It was comfy feathers.
Yeah.
It was glued to her head.
Standing straight up after like that first half hour in bed?
She has great product.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Look, hairnet in the 80s. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. Aquanet was
Aquanet.
Yeah.
All right, Rachel.
Well, I will say that I didn't watch as much He-Man as you. I played a lot with the toys and had stampedes of My Little Ponies that would attack because no one ever gave me the She-Ra horse either. And my friend had the He-Man figures and I was given the She-Ra ones. I will say it taught me a lot about myself as a child that my mom was probably horrified of, mostly because I thought Evelyn was hot, and I thought Tila was hot, and I thought that She-Ra was hot, though I don't like blondes as much. But my main, and it's horrible to say, my main Masters of the Universe exposure was the Dolph Lundgren movie, because I had it taped off HBO in the 80s, and it was on my rotation of movies that I had no idea why I liked. But I did. Probably Dolph Lundgren in a very tiny outfit might have had something to do with it.
It's a good reason.
But also Evelyn was even hotter in that movie. And Frank Langella was genuinely scary. Like, say what you will about the rest of the movie. Frank Langella was apparently given a different script.
Yeah.
And was told to chew every piece of scenery and spit it back out and chew it again. He went to the Raul Julia school of saving shitty movies. So, yeah, most of it was actually the live action. And then I would go back and watch the cartoon. And you're right. If you go back and look at it now, they snuck a lot of stuff in. So it was more enjoyable going back than it was as a kid, because I actually, like Daniel, yep, they have more toys to sell. They're going to introduce a new character this week. So that's how I hit. And the more you knows at the end, like they had a G.I. Joe, I always felt like He-Man was patronizing me, even as a small child. But yeah, Evelyn in that movie. She was gorgeous. Still is, the actress. Rick, want to follow that?
Rick.
Oh, sure. I mean, I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with He-Man and Masters of the Universe, because there was so much cool stuff. The theme was cool. The transformations, Daniel said. Skeletor was awesome. Castle Grayskull, but it was like, it was tempered because Filmation, I never liked them as a cartoon thing, because they always tried to make their stuff G-rated, because, as has been mentioned, yes, they had to have a lesson at the end of each one, where I just want to watch He-Man punch Skeletor's jaw off, and instead I got to listen to him be like, back when I was fighting Skeletor, I was very respectful, because calling people names is bad. Shut up.
He's Skeletor!
That just annoyed the crap out of me. And everything had a soft edge because of that. Skeletor had lines in the sand he wouldn't cross. And that kind of annoyed me. So it was kind of like a back and forth. That's why I liked Thundercats and Transformers more, because they would cross those lines.
They would kill people.
Yeah. And I will say, and let me just preface that I'm not talking about the newer She-Ra cartoon, and we're talking about much, 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 much younger Rick. But yeah, as Rachel said, She-Ra, I mostly watch She-Ra because She-Ra was hot. I mean,
we have that in common.
Yeah, I mean, she's running around fighting Hordak in essentially this lingerie, and I mean, as that's just yeah, that's just
it was a dress.
Sure.
So, Alledria, I'm going to move over into another one of these realms. We're going to go with the Thundercats, which, of course, because that was, I mean, this kind of stuff they did get away with in that series. So.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, Thundercats. I was a Chitara stan. 100%. I mean, granted, there weren't very many female characters on that show. That might be why I was such a big She-Ra person, because there was a plethora of female characters on She-Ra, whereas Chitara is essentially you have her, and then you have the female one of the twins, and that was pretty much it. And I was like, okay, well, but you have to admit Chitara was cool. She was cool. I did not see the reboot because I
tried.
Life happened. Life happened. Never really sat down for it. Missed it completely. Not sure I missed anything important.
It was awesome.
It
Jenny?
was.
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Everybody doesn't, I guess. Okay, I liked Thundercats growing up, but it wasn't my main rotation, even though like I said, I'm a cat girl, so I love Thundercats, right? I love that part of it. But I'm at San Diego Comic-Con, and my husband's there with me, and we go into a panel room that we're actually waiting for a panel 2 panels later. And it works out great because we got to see some great stuff, including Henry Cavill crashing a Superman panel there. Nobody knows he's coming, and there he is. And we're in a Comic-Con, a small room. And then the Thundercats come on. And like my husband said, because I've never been in a group of people our age this excited about anything. And we were all so thrilled. And honestly, I loved the reboot. I liked the changes they made. I thought it was good. I didn't mind that they made them, Lionel, a younger brother or whatever. I didn't mind any of that. I thought, you're rebooting, you're giving us something different. There was a lot more depth going on. And it did the terrible sin of it didn't sell enough toys. So it never made it to a second season because all of us who wanted to see the show, we didn't really want the collectibles. We wanted the show.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I liked it as a series, but just
I want a doll. I don't collect collectibles for the most part. So I didn't want a doll, right? And I was grown up at this point. I don't want a doll, right? My little girl is too old for this doll, right? So it was really good. I really liked it. It is very different in some ways. In some ways, it's exactly the same, but it's different from the cartoon. But I really like both. And I liked changing Lion-O into someone who's having to learn as opposed to our big, I'm already the king of the jungle kind of guy. It made it more interesting to follow as a fan. And I would have liked to have had more than one pathetic season because it was good. It deserved more.
Mel?
So I knew they were doing a reboot of Thundercats. It just was like one of those things where I was aware of it, and then by the time it popped up, my life had moved on. So am I opposed to it? No. I know they've talked multiple times about Thundercat movie that I'm very interested in. But again, I'd have to actually have it appear and register on my consciousness because the number of movies I see after it comes out on Amazon or Netflix is super high. But again, for me, Thundercats was just the coolest thing ever. You got to be a cat, but you got to be a human. The amount of D&D games we ran that had basically Thundercats as our characters is too many to name. Honestly, the character that annoyed me the most was Snarf. I didn't... If you're going to have a cute sidekick, Orko was much, much better. Snarf was just annoying. I liked the twins. I liked how Lionel grew up when he used the science to warp him into anything. The part that I honestly still to this day kind of think back and find amusing is they actually had a bald man. And that's the first time that I can remember actually having somebody who was bald who wasn't the bad guy. Lex Luthor, bad guy. And Panthera. He was sexy. I mean, granted, I'm 15, 16, 17, whatever. But I would have kicked him out of my bed. Not that I was getting to do anything with people in my bed at that age. But I thought that I just found him almost more interesting than I ever did Lionel because Lionel he was a teenager. And as a teenager, teenagers were annoying as all get out because teenagers are annoying even to other teenagers. But yeah, no, it was Cheetara all the way. I remember for a long time they had Halloween outfits where you could be Cheetara for Halloween and stuff. So it was cats. Well, why wouldn't I want to watch cats? I want to be a cat.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see Cheetara at Liberty Con. All right, so Rachel.
I'm about 30 years too old and 100 pounds too heavy.
Nonsense. I think you'd be a great Cheetara. But
I'll do Jadzia Dax first and do the dots.
Okay. But no, I think we're having a trend on this panel because if anyone has read my science fiction book, I clearly have it for the kitty boys. I was very interested in Thundercats. I mean, I loved Cheetara, because I said there weren't a lot of girls for us to look up to. And she was competent and she wasn't always being rescued, which was great. Mm-hmm. And Mumra was scary. He was scarier than Skeletor, genuinely. And I loved Egyptian mummies. So it had cats, it had mummies, it had science, it had swords, it had claws. And later I put all of those in a book and the kitty boy got laid. I'll let Rick follow up to that.
Can you follow that up, Rick?
Yes. Imagine, if you will, much younger Rick, hair, a good Catholic churchgoer.
No, I cannot imagine this. It is clearly fantasy.
Now imagine this good boy coming home from school and sitting down and turning on a cartoon and seeing a character go, "Ancient spirits of evil," and thinking, that is so freaking cool. And yeah, that was pretty much my main thing was, I loved a lot of Thundercats. I was all about Panthro because he could fix things. He was strong. He was cool.
You'd end up looking like him when you're older.
I'll take that as a compliment. Dude sounded like he could belt out some tunes if he wanted to. But there is no doubt that I 100% just lived for the bad guys on that, and 100% of the bad guys really was just Mum-Ra, because he was above and beyond Skeletor. I would tune in just to see his transformation. I would argue was just as cool as He-Man's, and that's probably my one regret of the of the reboot, because the reboot was excellent, but they really downplayed his transformation. Whereas, the 80s, everything was amped up on cocaine. They were let's make it as big as possible. Whereas, the reboot was okay, let's make it more subtle. It's no, I want Mum-Ra in my face, screaming to his ancient devil gods and stuff, because younger Rick just thought that was cool.
But are you a Thundercats hoe, everyone?
I am for the tiger. I am, because in the reboot, the tiger is now his brother and incredibly hot. So yes, I forget his name, but I'm the Tiger Boys hoe for sure. Yeah.
Daniel, whose hoe are you?
I'm anybody's hoe, mate. Seriously, I'm married. I haven't been laid in years. I'm just seriously, just give me a call. Sorry, Mel. I think I broke him.
So on that,
what's your wife gonna say when she sees this video?
Hey, do you think she watches anything I'm on? Hey, there's a reason.
I was just gonna say the chances are slim. It's not like my husband's queuing these up the next day, going, "Let's see what the wife talked about."
No, my partner won't either.
Great short.
Our spouses don't care. Our spouses are, it's an hour. I don't have to deal with them. Hallelujah to another.
And this is why I have cats.
Well, Lion-O had a sword, much like He-Man, because he was the hard man of the team, but he wasn't a knuckle-dragging meathead like most of them. But he would run.
He was thick, but with 2 C's, not the CK.
Yeah, he would run towards danger. I remember one where the mutants had a massive cannon, and they were when Lion-O went to the astral prison. And Cat Slayer got attacked, and Panthro just said, "Right, we've got to get close to that cannon. I'm getting in the tank." And he just drove towards the tank and got the absolute crap blown out of him. It was great. Has anybody here heard the outtakes?
No, but I feel like we should.
There is. It's been years since I've heard it, but it involves some expletives, so I will tone it down. But you hear them all in character. Mum-Ra going, "Mother bleeper," and Snarf going, "Get a bleeping job," and then Panther goes, "Shut the bleep up! Get over here, man!" It's like, whoa, this is not what I associate these people with.
Apparently the Smurf bloopers are even more filthy, just so you know. I got to talk to Michael Bell and heard about that.
Yeah.
So
but I also had a Lion-O action figure, and my sister had Mum-Ra, where you had a little ring with a battery on it, and you put it in their back, and their eyes lit up.
Oh,
that's what you did to your sister?
Yeah.
Hey, all boys' toys in the 80s were designed for one thing and one thing only: putting little sisters into therapy.
As a little sister from the 80s, I can confirm this.
So we've got a ton we haven't touched on, so I'm going to let everybody just sort of hit, whether it's Voltron, whether it is, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, right.
Whether Jenny, what's another good favorite for you that's in the memories from those glorious 80s?
Well, it's going to be Voltron because we really didn't talk about Voltron as much as Voltron deserves to be talked about. There are so many versions of Voltron. It's amazing. There's a version running right now, or it was very recently.
It's excellent.
Which actually was really good. I did see that.
Yeah. It's fine. It's really hard by the way, to find the 27, 25 ships version of Voltron. But that's the one I like the best. I really do. It had, they were in teams and they did stuff. And again, I really understand why they got rid of that fast. Okay. It was a lot of characters you had to keep track of, different teams you had to keep track of. Took forever for Voltron to form, right? I mean, really, it would be like, here's the roster. Oh, look, something's happened. Let's form Voltron. Yay, Voltron saved the day. And you're done. I mean, I don't know that there was any storytelling at all. I just loved watching all the different pieces fit in. And like I said, I still love the lions. Nothing wrong with the lions. And it had that what for me is the very typical anime. You have, your one willowy princess. You've got two guys who are good looking. You've got one guy who's a giant, but somehow still can't beat the guys that are good looking. And one guy who's little, who can be the big guy's sidekick. It's like Gilligan and the Skipper over and over and over again. And I mean, clearly anime creators saw a lot of Gilligan's Island because it's always the big guy and his little buddy. And somehow they can all fly and nobody's an idiot when they're joining together. Though one of the good looking hotheads one of the good looking guys has to be the hothead. And the other guy is the strong leader of the team.
That would be Lance and Keith.
Yes, indeed. And so I like the lions and I like the various iterations of the lions. And they keep doing the lions again because they're like 25, 27 pieces, very hard. But I guess I just my I want to build it brain I really liked I think it's the first iteration is the 25 or 27 ships forming Voltron, which still scientifically made more sense to me. Don't ask me why.
Mel, what's your choice?
Okay, tell me if this works. I don't know if the sound's going to play. Can you hear it?
No. And that would probably be a copyright hit anyway.
So don't play it. Subtle, don't play it.
Not if it's it's like 15 seconds. You're fine.
No, you
right?
only have 7.
Yeah,
that's fine. 7 seconds. Does this work?
No.
Fine. DuckTales. I can still go into the DuckTales theme song without even no. I absolutely. It wasn't highbrow or anything else. But you smiled watching the entire episode and you walked away from it kind of bouncing to the theme song the entire time. So
and I'm going to be singing it for the rest of the week, so thank you very much.
We all are. We all are.
Between DuckTales, and I know it actually premiered years later, but Rescue Rangers and then Tailspin, all 3 of those, they were Disney, but they were fun, non-stupid Disney stuff with anthropomorphized animals and everything else, and I never ever had an episode that I didn't enjoy watching. Even if you want to include Darkwing Duck.
Oh, Darkwing Duck.
There's a new comic series of Darkwing Duck coming out right now, I believe.
Yeah, and see, they were fun. They definitely weren't anything that I was upset if I missed. But if a rerun popped on, I'll watch that. Not a problem. Because you knew you were going to enjoy it every single time. And there were very few. Most of the stories were wrapped up in each single story. And so it was just fun. And DuckTales, and it had literally one of the best theme songs because really some of the other series theme songs kind of sucked.
There were so many theme songs in the 80s.
Well, it's kind of hard because my top 10 cartoons are either in the 90s or the 2020s. So or 2010s. So that makes it a little difficult. But since we're going back into the 80s for this one, I will have to say I was a fan of those pizza-loving Teenage Mutant Ninja. Oh, I'm sorry. I will translate for the Brit. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Ah, Ninja.
That one.
Yes.
I argue with my partner all the time on that one. But
The
Leonardo.
Beefeater Turtles, yeah.
Yeah, Leonardo and his double katanas was super cool, and Casey Jones was cool, and I liked April because she got kidnapped a little bit, but she was still pretty competent and a reporter. And Splinter was cool, and Shredder. Well, Shredder I thought looked like a kitchen gadget, so he wasn't as cool. And Krang was just looked like me before makeup. Yeah. So I guess I will have to put that in because Voltron was already taken. So,
Rick?
This is going to go back a ways, but I remember really enjoying as a kid Space Ghost. Because
I knew I could count on you. And
that's not the Coast to Coast.
No, Space Ghost.
No, that was long before Coast to Coast. It was actually it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, so I don't want to say serious, but it was a lot more serious than that. He was basically kind of an outer space Batman. He had two kids and their monkey as his sidekicks, and they were and he had all these cool superpowers, and his sidekicks, they could turn invisible and they could fly, but otherwise they were absolutely useless for anything other than getting captured. But I just really dug the the superhero vibe because oddly enough, it was less goofy than Super Friends.
Yes.
Oh,
everything
come
is
on.
less goofy.
I was thinking that Solomon Grundy needs pants too.
Daniel, so what about you?
Well, so many. So in keeping with the sword theme, Thundar the Barbarian. So just
More
dark,
barbarian?
twisted, amazing. Another barbarian, just men running around with no shirts. So spotting a theme somewhere.
No, Hanna-Barbera. It's another Hanna-Barbera, or maybe it is Hanna-Barbarian.
So we should tell your wife to get you a loincloth for Christmas covered with fur is what I'm hearing.
Hey, maybe it'll lead somewhere. I'll give her your number.
For her or for you?
Wow. But there were so many good theme tunes during the 80s. The best theme tune I contend was actually the theme tune to Bionic 6, if anybody heard that.
I think that was more of a UK one. I have heard it, but only when British accent told me about it.
Okay, but no, the theme tune for that, amazing. But you had Robotech, obviously, which was very closely related to Transformers. I didn't watch it. Sorry?
Don't rewatch it. Don't stick with your memories.
It
is not. And I realized I read all the books and I crossed them in. So all the good storytelling is actually in the books, in the novelizations. It's not in the cartoon. And my husband, I've talked
Go to Macross. Just skip over to Macross.
I talked about Robotech to my husband for decades, and we finally start watching it, and he's like, you care about this? I'm like, I cared about the books, I guess. Yeah. It was wonderful in the day.
I didn't see it until long after the 80s, but it is such an 80s anime. Mobile Suit Gundam. I am a Gundam nut, and you just But yes, Turtles, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, Centurions, all.
Centurions! I hadn't thought about that one in 40 years.
Yeah.
And okay,
there was Gem. No one said Gem.
Gem was awesome. I love Gem.
Well,
I keep forgetting it was in the 80s.
Maybe Alledria was going to say Gem, and you just stole it from her.
Maybe.
Alledria, you're allowed to.
But you know the one that nobody has mentioned that I can guarantee at least most of us watch? Heavy Metal.
Oh, yeah.
Movie. Yeah, it's a movie. I own it.
Yes.
So do I.
It was illegal to have in the U.S.
Was it?
Yeah.
I went to the movie premiere on a date. I don't remember it being illegal or banned.
I mean, I've never heard of that one, but the one that's... Did anybody see Spartacus and the Sun Beneath the Sea?
Mm-mm.
So
No.
that one.
We should probably let Alledria get an opinion before we take everything.
Right?
Sorry.
No, I was actually going to say, how many of us remember Silverhawks?
Oh,
Oh.
Yes.
With the flying through space and the country
yeah, the
thing,
bluegrass, yeah.
bluegrass with his like keyboard
A guitar that shoots things. Yeah, go on, play me some music.
like what?
Brave
Mad Max
Star.
stole that.
Brave
It's like,
Star,
this
the
is
horse
great.
that shot people.
and I'm really hoping that the action figure, or was really hoping the action figure would come with propane, with the flaming guitar. But
It's like you have the one who can't fly, so he's in the spaceship, and everybody else is flying through space. And it's like what? Or I think there's one other one that I can't. Oh gosh, the Star Sheriffs,
Star Sheriffs, Galaxy Rangers. There was that one.
Galaxy Rangers, Saber Riders, and the Star
Saber Rider,
Sheriffs.
yeah.
so I know
Like,
we've run way into overtime, but I'm going to throw
Us?
one. This is a speed round. Speed round.
So you claim.
So brevity. But speed round. As writers, what is the number one thing that Saturday morning cartoons has contributed to your writing? So Mel, you're up first.
Wow, that's not fair.
Yes, so Daniel, what's your favorite cartoon? Alledra, what's your favorite cartoon? Mel, how do you write?
Honestly, believe it or not, with the wide range of cartoons, it was just mostly the different way to do character. You didn't not cartoons for all of their failings, everything else. There were so many totally different characters. Whereas if I grab the average romance, I can probably grab 10 romances and they all have the exact same leading man or main character female. With cartoons, you were dweebs, you were heroes, you were paralyzed, you were, in wheelchairs. There was never anything that was, this is the only thing that a hero or a character can be.
Rachel?
Clearly, it's been said before. Kitty boys are hot. Let's bang them. That's what I put into my writing.
Catnip. All right, Rick.
I mentioned before about Transformers being an ensemble cast. So yes, sometimes the main character is not the person who's gonna save the day. All those side characters get a chance to shine.
Daniel?
Swords are awesome. Don't limit yourself to the real world. I mean, the great thing about cartoons as opposed to live action, I mean, obviously we've got computer generated stuff these days, but back in the 80s with cartoons you could do anything. You weren't limited by what you could realistically put together by hiring more extras. Just letting your imagination go even wilder than usual. But also I do blame the 80s for my love of episodic storytelling. That gets a bad rap. They say, oh no, you've got to have one long overarching story that takes millions of pages to get there. Or you can have Monster of the Week.
Alledria?
What has Saturday morning cartoons contributed to my writing? Basically, they have shown they are the when in doubt, blow something up. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's actually a bomb, that nothing actually has to explode, but some kind of something has to happen to change the story. And it's like, okay, I can roll with that. That's awesome. Let's do that.
All right, Jenny.
I got two. One is that science fiction and to an extent fantasy plots are more interesting than the non-science fiction. fantasy plots of, Voltron, Robotech, Transformers, everything is changing and moving, and it's really interesting. And that's way more interesting than just a ship flying through the sky. But probably my number one, look, Velms, it's a man in a mask.
Well,
Jinkies.
before we play the outro tune, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you side characters, and make sure, website, social media, and of course, wit of your literary works will help fix the brain damage of the last hour and a half. So, Rachel.
All right. I am R.E. Carr, and you can find me online at rachelecarr.com. Please make sure to use the E because Rachel Carr writes vegan cookbooks. If you want to find me on social media, I am at Total Recar. Total 80s reference, and I love it. My latest book, The Guy in Real Life Saga, brings gender fluid lit RPG and trashes all your favorite video games in one convenient collection.
Rick?
Well, I am pretty much Rick Gualtieri everywhere. It's my website, rickgualtieri.com. If you can't spell it, which most people can't, just Google Bill the Vampire. You'll find me. And my latest book is Boar War, which is a story about giant murder pigs set in the 1970s.
And it's awesome.
Daniel?
I'll go for a bit of that. My name's Daniel Hand. If you have been traumatized by today's conversation, you can pick up your copy of Role-Playing Games and Psychotherapy, a Practitioner's Guide on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your reading material. And if you want to, you can play giant transforming robots. You can catch up with me on YouTube at The RPG Therapist, where I talk about very similar things to what we talk about here. And I do weekly streams on Twitch with some friends at the International Writers Fellowship. And if you really need help, you can hire my therapeutic services at Monomyth Counseling with 2Ls.co.uk.
Alledria?
I'm still the first 5 pages of Google if you can spell my first name. And I am currently on a hiatus from social media. So if you want to reach out to me, it's Alledria at alledriahurt.com.
Jenny?
GiniKoch.com. I'm all over Facebook. And if you want to sign up for my free newsletter, hook me up. You can do so from my main Facebook fan page, Hairspray and Rock and Roll. I'm also on X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. And my release, which the book birthday is actually today, the day we're filming, is Natural Born Outlaws, Legend of Belladonna, Book 1. It's a novel set in the Old West, and it's by me writing as A.E. Stanton. And that book is the reason why I started writing in the first place. So even though I don't write a lot set in the West.
And Alien Kitty Cats will be coming to you 1 year.
Aliens Like Us, I swear to God, is coming soon.
Mel?
I'm Mel Todd. You can find me at Bad Ash Publishing, and note that it's ASH, not what I'm sitting on. I'm on Facebook. In theory, I'm in all of the other places, but if you actually want to talk to me, it's Facebook or email because I have this much bandwidth for social media. I have a lot of books. If you want to read urban fantasy with no romance, no sex, and just aliens trying to destroy the world, you should look up my stuff.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingprose.com, and of course, here at ConTinual. And now go unlatch those doors and let the rest of these crazed fools out. Time to put up the sugary snacks and heat that last pack of Pop-Tarts. We'll see you again soon.
Oh!
Bye.